On to patch notes. Where do we start? We start chapter 10. Okay, let's just go down like this. So what do we have? Campaign, monolith, dungeon, arena, yada yada. Yeah, a lot of stuff. So, addition corrects reserved block. Say there's some things we missed. Patch notes this long. Feel free to check back here. Mantle of the Palox, health for union minions. Oh, so they nerfed increased health. Okay. Until grants increased health. Buffed increased health. Minion health. And flat minion health. We play no deadly pots save maximum 12 points, yeah. Okay. But causing our ringers need levels to disable the land before max companion count. Okay. Yellow evil cat. Yes, always good. How about you? We're finally getting around to checking the everything related to Ellie, the patch notes and everything, so we can edit and finish up our build for tomorrow. Chapter 10, the campaign, following the Battle of Majasa, travel hunt down Apophis to the ancient era. 17 new campaign zones, 28 new enemies and variations of existing ones. Okay, completing chapter 10 will give you an additional +1 to all attributes. Nice. So we get +2 to all attributes from fully finishing the campaign. Campaign zone. Depends on only fate echoes, because quest echoes and arena echoes now have a chance to spawn either a mysterious rift or a thorn rift. This is to fight dangerous rifts. Dangerous rift beasts. Also, all of them. Okay. So it will work kind of like Nemesis. First time you find a rift, it will be a mysterious rift. When you use the rift, you'll be taken to the ancient era just outside the entrance of a new cave side zone. Because these caves are now new side zones, you'll not find any rifts in echoes that have a tomb or cemetery. At the cave entrance, you'll be greeted by Scarven Bloodhunt, a friendly Wingari. Explain what lies inside the cave, we'll see you in fighting through it. This cave also acts as a vendor you can trade in materials and currency with. Inside the cave, you'll find a number of different enemies from the ancient era, which drop new currency called ancient bones instead of gold. Oh, so it will actually be interesting. Well, not interesting, intended for you to clear the areas for ancient bones. Rift Beasts and Evolutions. Rift Beasts are powerful boss enemies which have a wide variety of traits and abilities and will evolve as you continue with the primal hunt. Rift Beasts will drop ancient bones, primordial materials, general loot, and will occasionally drop a primordial unique. The chance drop of primordial is increased by the number of evolutions it has. Upon defeating the Rift Beast at the end of the cave, you'll have the ability to choose to evolve this lineage of Rift Beasts or end the lineage altogether. Upon choosing an evolution, all Rift Beasts in the lineage will gain a new trait associated with the evolution, new possible loot, and at least one guaranteed primordial material. Evolution traits give the Rift Beast new abilities, which can even include the ability to summon additional enemies. There are over 60 different evolutions to choose from. You cannot select the same evolution more than once each lineage. This lineage will start with a max of 4 evolutions, but can be increased to 7 evolutions by fully completing 2 lineages and completing a new Overneco Rampant Coast. Okay. Torn Rifts and Advancing Lineages. Once the Rift Beast has been evolved and you do not end or complete the lineage, you'll now encounter Torn Rifts instead of Mysterious Rifts. Using these rifts will cause you to be ambushed by a Rift Beast from your current lineage. Rift Beasts spawned this way will continue to drop loot associated with their evolutions as well as general loot. Once you have defeated 2 to 4 Rift Beasts, your next rift will be a Mysterious Rift, which will take you back to the ancient era and allow you to once again evolve the Rift Beast or end the lineage. Any in the lineage and non-primordial unique named evolutions end will drop. Oh. So there's a guaranteed unique drop. Okay. When you reach your maximum number of evolutions, the next time you defeat a Rift Beast in the cave, you'll only be able to end the current lineage and start a new one. There are 5 types of primary materials which can be gained from killing Rift Beasts. Some materials like crystallized hearts can only be obtained from specific activities like completing a lineage. Players can spend primordial materials and ancient bones to buy a number of items from Scarven, including primordial uniques. You'll be able to trade with Scarven at the entrance of any cave after defeating a Rift Beast in the cave and in a new zone in the ancient era called the Garden. There are two types of primordial items, primordial uniques and primordial exalted items. These items are so powerful can only have one equipped. Yeah, we heard that before on the video. Means you cannot have one primordial uniques and a primordial exalted item equipped at the same, or two primordial item, or two primordial. There are total of 25 primordial uniques. 22 of them can be purchased from Scarven, while 3 can only drop from Rift. I wonder which 3 they are. Primordial uniques have incredibly transformative effects, which can range from plus level of all skills, gaining super critical hits called deadly strikes, allowing you to summon a T-Rex, or increase the effectiveness of your idols. Primordial uniques of all kinds can still gain legendary potential and be used in the Eternity Cache. Ah. This sounds so stupidly busted, though. Primarily, Zelda items are created by crafting with a new Rune of Evolution. Using a Rune of Evolution on an item with at least one T7 affix will turn one random T7 affix into a T8 and seal it, freeing up an additional affix slot. T8 affixes will have between 50 to 100% additional effect over 7 affixes. Okay, Architect Liath will now always drop some cold and lightning resistance shard and rare items with resistance implicit when you first defeat her in the campaign. Oh, that's interesting. To ensure that players have tools to improve their survivability against Lagon if they need them. Killing campaign Liath on repeat occasions will not result in any extra loot. If you were the Keeper of Walls wave fight. Oh, that's nice. I hope it gives you experience now. You got the Arjani Ruby Commander quest. Updated the wave fight in the armor to replace the old Ravenous Void form. And Abyssal Coral enemies with the newer Void Grubs and Void Despairs. Okay. Phase spawn slightly more rapid in the wave fight in the armory. Updated the Trek Survivor mini boss in the Ruined Coast to use a new cultist model and updated his ability. Who's. I can't remember. I can't remember who this guy is. I really cannot remember. Ruined Coast. Where's the Ruined Coast? Oh, right. I forgot. I meant to have this on the background. Did have some music. Minera, no. Ruinera. Ruined Coast. What the heck is the Ruined Coast? I can't remember. I don't even know which mini boss they're talking about. If you know, do tell me where the Ruined Coast is. Okay, moving on. The model needs quest progression to be shared between party members. Anyone in the party will have the quest echoes completed as long as they have enough stability to start that quest echo. Upon completion of the final quest echo, all eligible players will have completed the time and also be given a chance to select a blessing. That's nice. Although, so this didn't work before? Wasn't even aware. 3 new open echoes based around the new Rift Beast, Rampant Coast. Slay a rampantly evolved Rift Beast with a crystallized heart to unlock the ability to evolve your own Rift Beast lineages beyond the normal limit. Well-Eyed Glade. Slay a pack of randomly evolved Rift Beast champions to retrieve the primordial exalted items they guard, each of which has a primordial champion affix. Huh? Ah, primordial exalted, okay. Primordial exalted champion. Exalted. Nesting Grove. Protect the Rift Beast and protect the Rift Beast nest to spread Rift Beast encounters to surrounding echoes. Cannot add Rift Beast encounters to arena echoes, woven echoes, or cemeteries of the erased. Only applies to the first step at each echo. Cliff of Energy has been reworked. No longer unpredictably change the item to siphon stability to the timeline. Note the new temporal keystone detailed below can be used to add stability directly to the timeline without crafting. It now reforges a subtype of an item into another subtype with the same item type and class restrictions when adding or upgrading an affix. A new item has been introduced named a temporal keystone. In the Echo Web UI, there's a button on the bottom right of the stability bar that lists your current number of temporal keys. Press 1 will be consumed and the current timeline will be granted 150 to 210 stability. These are stored in the key tab of the inventory menu. So, they reworked Glyph of and no, it still exists. So, it still adds stability, right? They don't say... They say they no longer change the item to siphon stability to timeline. Is it the no longer the unpredictably changes, or the siphon stability to timeline? We'll see, I suppose. Harbingers now have a bonus chance to up temporal keystones instead of Glyph of Envy, so maybe they just replaced them with temporal keystones. And now it just serves as a way to reforge the subtype of an item. Harbingers now have a bonus chance to drop temporal keystone instead of Glyph of Envy. Rank 5 Forgotten Knights bonus now grants additional chance for Harbingers to drop temporal keystone instead of Glyph of Envy. Bee Green Loot Lizards will now drop temporal keystones in addition to Glyphs of Envy. 6 new Monolith Echo Zones based on Chapter 10, Serene Islands, Nightbloom Forest, Mushroom Caves, Crystal Lakes, Sky Garden, and Tidal Sand. Increase the area of most pre-90 normal timelines in the Monolith of Fate. All of the Outcasts is now level 62, Stonelands is 66, Black Sun is 70, Boston Death was 74. It's actually not good. Especially these. Well, it is and it isn't. Because we're still gonna be under level anyway. First Harbinger for the Forgotten Night quest now always spawns in the first completed level 90 timeline. Previously it was the last level completed 90 timeline. Okay. Spawn rate of tombs. This does not affect the spawn rate of cemeteries. Added the text that lists total corruption gained from or echo rewards that increase your corruption for more than one sources. Players can no longer take damage from enemies while in echo of a world between monolith echoes. Okay. Right clicking a quest echo or timeline boss in the top left of the monolith will immediately start it if able. Oh, okay. Portaling between monolith echoes in offline should now be as smooth as it is online instead of showing a loading screen. I wonder if they fixed the animation, because when you move out of a quest, a monolith echo, a completed one, you actually have an animation lock for portaling, which is not present in online. And that iris can no longer follow the player into a tomb by using their borrow ability. Okay. Dungeon tier unlocks are now shared between characters. Ah, this is so nice. In Temple Sanctum, I indicated the first time duel their most powerful attack to remind the player that you can use Temporal Shift ability. Legend boss vote no longer wait for people who have left the run to vote. Okay. A loading screen where the portal is used to proceed to the next arena scene. Okay, and class and skill updates. You now gain 0.8 minion power per character level instead of 0.6, so the buff. Minions now take 60% less damage from dangerous enemy abilities, so also buffed. Made improvements to minion AI so they behave more intelligent, switch targets less often. Okay. Minions can be toggled between protect and assassinate modes. Form is similar to current behavior and is on by default, while the latter allows the minions to stray further from you and stick to higher priority, more distant targets. Huh. So, protect is what we have now. Uh, now this is not... if it's the current behavior, it's not particularly great, I would say. I was hoping that it would get changed a bit. But I guess we'll have to see. Keyboard and mouse, the 2 key. WSD, the 3 key. Controller left on the directional pad. Fix many common cases of minion snapshotting from items. All minions are now more responsive at high movement speeds, reducing instances of minions spinning around and failing to reach their destination in a timely fashion. Minions no longer sometimes run back and forth between a potential target and the summoner. Minions no longer use the movement skill to target if that would leave them at a range, or they would immediately start running back to the player afterwards. Minions run in front of the player towards their destination. Let's use our mouse position on gamepad and WSD, pick its position up to 5 meters in front of you along unobstructed walkable area. This means that when using gamepad or WSD, this is only consistent on unobstructed terrain, and they may still lag behind slightly when going around corners. They won't be as far behind as 1.2. The nodes in each class which unlock access to dual wielding now grant 80% more damage taken while dual wielding, of 9, and 30% increase attack and cast speed while dual wielding. Ooh. They actually get an attack speed buff. I still think they should reduce the damage taken. It doesn't make much sense when you're already sacrificing a shield slot to even taking more damage on top of it. The Rip Blood sign now casts Rip Blood every second from every 0.5 second. Void Well now has a 4-second cooldown from 3. Mark of Rot now increases. Right, Sentinel passives changes. Anomaly. Mark of Rot now increases void damage taken by 30% from 50. Got nerfed. Erasing Strike. Shatter Continuity now also grants Erasing Strike 20% less damage. I'm guessing that's a nerf. Battle Standard grants 300% more hit damage from 300% more damage. So no longer applies to ailments. Judgment. Urgent Inquisition grants plus 50 mana cost from 40 and now also grants 50% less healing from Consecrated Ground. Previously had no effect on healing. So a nerf. Cleansing Light now has a trigger limit of 3 times per 10 seconds. Previously had no limit, so also a nerf. Smite. Panacea grants Smite healing a chance to cleanse if Smite was directly cast from any cast. Invigorate grants 4% increased healing effectiveness per symbol per point from 6, so nerf. Healing Rites grants 3% increased healing effectiveness per point on activation, and another nerf. Pretty tame nerfs, I would say. Blade Dancer passive tree. Spellbreaker grants 1% parry chance per point from 4% frailty chance. Now has a 3-point threshold bonus granting plus 25% frailty chance. Okay. Slight buff, I suppose? Critical Eye now has 3-point threshold, granting 30% critical avoidance. Again, just extra stuff. The Crimson Shadow now grants chance to gain Crimson Shadow when directly use melee or throwing attack. Finally! Finally, you can now do throwing attacks. Actually get benefit from this goddamn node with throwing attacks. Nice change. Blood Dance grants 0.5 of damage leeches health for damage over time per point from 10% increased leech rate. Can't really remember. But sounds good. Blood Reaper also grants plus 7 health per points. Can't recall which passive this is. Either way, Skyward Swoop grants a 6% cooldown recovery. No, Aerial Assault. Skyward Swoop grants 6% cooldown recovery per point from 10% when your Falcon is an enemy, and now has a trigger limit of 10 times per 3 seconds. Previously had no limit. Okay, so I'm guessing a slight nerf. Dancing Strike now gains increased cooldown recovery speed and more damage equal to 50% of your total increased melee attack speed from no increased cooldown recovery speed and more damage equals 33% of your total increase. So buff. Each attack in the sequence now has 150 effectiveness of added damage from 100 or 120% depending on the attack. So, Lancing Strikes gets buffed. Maybe now it will be seeing more use. Dive Bomb. Flock of Crows grants a 34% chance per point from 100% to gain a stack of Dusk Shroud for each Shadow Falcon that hits at least one enemy. Keeping Wounds now has a max of 4 points from 5. Midnight Aviary grants 1% more damage per point per Rumble Blade on the ground, up to 25% more damage per point. Previously had no limit. But it's a bit of a nerf. Rapid Pursuit grants 3 mana per point from 4 and 8% traversal skill cooldown recovered per point from 12 on hitting at least one boss or enemy. Focus Center grants -2 mana cost instead of -4. Shadow Falcons created by On Rings of Shadow are now created when initial Dive Bomb lands rather than immediately on use. Would it consume the Falcons when you pop Dive Bomb before? I don't know, I never played around it this much, so I don't know how much of a nerf this is. But overall, looks like a pretty big nerf. Big. Enter Spoils now has a trigger limit. Oh. Turn on. Is there a light? It's better. Maybe I missed that. Who are we gonna play next patch? I'm gonna play my Skelly Pop build. Necromancer. That's the one I'm starting and racing with. Hunter Spoils now has a trigger limit for hit effect of 10 times per 3 seconds. Previously I had no limit, so also a nerf, I suppose. Puncture Cannons of Death now specifies that it grants increased melee area rather than generic area. It's only a description change. Synchronized Strike reduces anticipation time by 50%, making it faster to use. Don't know what this is. Umbral Blade, Edge of Obscurity, grants 2% more damage per stack of Dusk Shroud, up to 20 stacks. Previously had no limit on the benefit. It is still doubled while in a Smoke Bomb. Max 3 points from 4. Nah. It's a summoner, but when you're playing it, it really doesn't feel like a summoner. Crimson Gluttony. Okay, Acolyte Passive Tree. All the Acolyte Passive Tree changes. Crimson Gluttony has been reworked. Now grants 1% missing health gained as ward per point and 1% of current health drained per second per point. Oh, okay, so low life support. Veins of Power grants 8% increased bleed duration for you and your minions per point, so buff. Soul grants 4 minion armor per level, also buffed. Ethereal Revenant now has a threshold bonus of 4 points, which grants the Revenant 1% more damage per combined minion skill level. Well, that's interesting. Putrid Demise now grants 7% poison chance per point instead of 8% chance to poison nearby enemies. Also nice. Meteor Sorcerer is a summoner, technically summons meteors. Oh, you know. Many of Mortality now grants 10% chance per point to gain 13 ward on nearby death, 10% chance of 13 ward per point. Now also grants 10 ward decay threshold per point. This is actually a really nice change. Because now, I don't think before it took into account your minion death. Now it does. No more reliable. Apocrypha now has a 7-point threshold bonus. You grant 50% of your increased mana regen as increased armor. Interesting. Grasp of Fate increases 10. Oh, this is the Lich passive tree already. Grasp of Fate grants 10% increased necrotic damage from 12 and 10% increased cold damage per point. I'm pretty sure Lich is gonna be quite crazy. It's still gonna be a Sentinel is still gonna be busted anyway. Void Knight specifically. Soul Barrier has been replaced with Dead Nerves, which grants +1 to Vitality and 4% poison resistance per point. Soul Barrier has been moved to replace Life Barrier and rework. When a hit taken leaves you below half health, you gain 1 ward per 1% and cap poison resistance per point. 6-second cooldown. Well, that doesn't sound much better than what it was before. Still don't see people using this. Yeah, I don't see it. Spirit Lure has been replaced with Spirit Ward, which grants +5 ward per second, 2% Fizz Res, and 2% Necrotic Res. This is actually really good. I wanted to ask if you're affected by wildfires this summer. All good in your area? In here it's all good, because I am close to the coast. Here it has been fine, for the most part. On my mother's hometown, and everything has burned around the village. Not the village. The village is fine, just around it. It is close in the interior. Okay. Serrated Bones has been renamed to Biting Frost and now grants 7% frostbite for you and your minions. Nice. Harvested Legions has been replaced with Ethereal Menace, which grants 6% increased melee damage and 1 dexterity per point. Also nice. Reaper now has a 3-point threshold bonus, which grants +2 dodge rating per intelligence and 2% increased dodge rating per vitality. Ooh, so now we can actually do a dodge build on a Reaper. So maybe now we'll see that thing, the obscurity thing, actually getting used. Shroud of Obscurity. Because now you can actually scale the dodge. Added new nodes, Cornful Blood, which takes the old position of Hollow Lich. Instead of healing you, Lich drains the health of an enemy within 6 meters every 0.25 seconds. Hollow Lich has been moved to require Scornful Blood and now grants 2% increased damage per 1% health leech per point. Maximum of 3 points from 10% increased damage per 1%. 1 point. I mean, yeah, if you're gonna go low life and you want to make use of the leech, you can grab these 2 nodes, I suppose. Was in Piodon, well burned down, just 3 trunks. Yeah, that area is very... Like, the interior is very common. Castelo Branco, Fundão, all of those tend to be always massively affected by wildfires. Bed of Souls now. Bed of Souls now has a 5-point threshold bonus, which grants 2% increased health regen per vitality. You could make a regen lich now, which could be interesting. Crippling Insight has been renamed to Excoriating Insight and grants -1% elemental resistance per point instead of 5% reduced health regen per point. It now has a 5-point threshold, which grants 8% elemental penetration. Okay. So -5% elemental resist. Not a bad trade-off. Volatile Blood has been replaced with Executioner. You can dual wield by equipping an axe or dagger on your offhand. And while dual wielding, you have 20% decreased attack and cast speed. Nice, and take 80% increased damage. 8%. Add a new node, Corrupted Form, in the same column as 3 Plagues. It grants +6% more health. More health is kinda crazy though. And +2% of max health gain as endurance threshold per point. It's such a crazy node. It has a 2-point threshold bonus, which prevents you from having current health or ward above 50% of your maximum health, but you always count on as on low life. Maximum 5 points. Yeah, I can see people messing around with this node quite a bit. So it's a 5-pointer, right? 6, so 30% more health, and then you get reduced. Your health gets cut by 50%. Okay. Your health can't go above 50%. Health and ward, right? Health or ward above 50% of your maximum health. Oh. With the death, not marked for death. Death seal changed? We'll see. Any classes to go through? Too weak, reworked, OP, nerfed, too weak. I don't know if it's gonna be that OP lich, though. Contagion has been replaced with Spectral Wounds, which grants 2% of hit damage taken from bosses and rares to be dealt over 4 seconds. And plus 8 health per point, so 10% of hit damage. Not bad. Dark Art has been replaced with Essence Devourer. It grants 7% increased damage over time, and 1% damage over time, which is health per point. It has a 5-point threshold bonus, which grants 1% more damage over time per 7% current health drain. No longer requires Deathbringer. So it's kinda made for low life builds. You get more damage over time based on how much health drain you have. Interesting. I really like what they did with Leech so far. There's a lot of interesting things you can do with it. Alrighty. Elixir of Death has been replaced with Instruments of Death. You can 2% increase movement speed with a dagger, 2% more damage with an axe, and 15 more per second with catalyst per point. Maximum of 5 points. Also pretty nice. I like these nodes that give you different bonus depending on equipment. Timo of Decay has been replaced with Impact Ward. It grants 4% less damage over time taken per point, has a 3-point threshold bonus which grants all damage over time taken bypasses ward. That is interesting. Because then you can keep your leech going. You can make use of your Lich to counter dot. Decaying form now grants 2% less poison damage taken. From 2% increased poison damage taken. And now a 6-point threshold bonus, which grants 50% of all damage over time taken is taken as poison damage. Huh. Interesting. Clairvoyant Insight now has a 3-point threshold bonus, which grants when you critical hit an enemy, you gain 25% of your critical strike multiplier as ward. 3 times per 2 seconds. I mean, the base crit actually not bad, since the base critical even if you don't have any investment in critical multiplier, you're still getting 50 ward per crit. So 75 ward per second, essentially. And if you're going crit, you're gonna have more than 200% crit multi. Wands of the Fallen now grants 10% increased spell damage with no shield equipped, from requiring a one-hand weapon and no shield. It now has a 3-point threshold bonus which grants plus 13 spell damage with no shield. Nice, interesting. Actually a proper useful node. Corrosive Consciousness has been replaced with the Cursed Feast, which grants 6% of damage leached as health, 66 increased health leech, and 66 increased leech rate. But leech stack drops off. Leech stacks drop off when you reach 66% health instead of 100%. Maximum 1 point. Kinda weird. Oh, we'll see how this actually works. Mind Over Body now has a 5-point threshold which grants 5% of missing health gain as ward per second. So yeah, more low life support. I wonder how far that node is on the tree though. It should be past its chain. Soulmaw has been replaced with Reaper's Malice, which grants plus 2 dexterity, 8% increased critical strike chance, and 4 ward gained on dodge per point, maximum 5 points. Yeah, this just screams the Shroud of Obscurity to me. Now you can actually make a Shroud of Obscurity build on a Lich. Imagine. Okay, Necromancer. Elixir of Hunger grants plus 7 health from 5 and plus 1 intelligence. Previously 1 second of hunger duration per point. You now has a 6-point threshold which grants when you use a potion, kill the lowest health minion to restore health equal to 50% of its max health. This is very nice. Very, very nice. I wonder if this is flat health or percent health. Because then it could be annoying. Grave Thorns grants plus 1 vitality from 5% increased minion health. plus 10 minion armor from 5% increase, and plus 10 minion damage reflected from plus 5. Now as a 3-point threshold, it gains 2% increased minion armor per intelligence, and 4% increased minion health per vitality. Ooh. It's actually quite nice. First Blood now has a 5-point threshold bonus, which grants when one of your minion dies, enemies within 4 meters are marked for death. It can occur up to 2 times per 3 seconds. Wait, which is... we're gonna have to see this on the passive tree. Blood armor grants plus 6 minion health regen from plus 2 per point. Life Drinker has been replaced with Soul Conduit, which grants plus 2 ward per second per point per minion you have active, up to 20 minions, so... per point, so 10 ward per second? Up to 200 ward per second then. Mortal Tether now grants 2% endurance per point. Mark of Punishment has been replaced with Towering Death. Plus 5 health, plus 15 armor, and 50 stun avoidance per point. It has 5-point threshold bonus, grants minions stun immunity, and 30% reduced bonus taken from critical strikes for you and your minions. It remains to be seen if this is worth the 5 points. Could be. Because then you only need a good roll of crit reduction to cap it out. Dark Retribution has been replaced with Invigorated Dead. Plus 2 minion melee physical damage and 2% increased minion movement speed per point. It has a 3-point threshold bonus, which grants your minions gained 100% of their added melee physical damage as added throwing physical damage. So minion throw support. Always nice to see. Unbound Necromancy is now a 5-point node that grants 8% chance per point of summoned skeletons to resummon 3 seconds after death. Its previous effect of plus 1 maximum skeletons for summoned skeletons is now a 3-point threshold bonus. And this actually makes a minion auto bomber build possible. So we're gonna mess with that eventually. Withbeaver has been reworked. It now grants 7% minion frostbite chance and 20% minion freeze rate multiplier. Could be interesting, since you have a lot of frost damage support. Unearthed Arms has been replaced with Blood Feast. It grants 1% minion damage listed as health, and 5% increased minion health. Is it the minions leeching for themselves, or the minions leeching for you, though? I don't know. Soul Drinker has been replaced with Sharpened Bones. It grants 1% minion critical strike chance, maximum 5 points, and free crit chance. Effigy has been reworked. It now grants 2% of damage taken redirected to your lowest health minion per point. So 10% damage mitigation, essentially. It has 3-point threshold bonus. It grants when your minion dies, your minions restore health equal to 20% of its maximum health. Oh, really nice. This essentially makes it so I don't need to go and invest points into the mage node early on to keep them alive. As we're always going to be sacrificing skeletons, this is always going to be triggering. River of Bones no longer grants increased minion health leech or minion freeze rate multiplier. Huh. Moonlight Fire now also grants 7% minion damage chance on hit and 7% ignite chance on hit per point. Which was Moonlight Fire? I can't recall. We'll have to see. We'll have to look at the passive trees. I have it open there. We'll look at it at the end. Cling to Life grants plus 4% minion all res per point from 2%. It also grants 1 all resistance per point. I think this was before. I'm sure this it always gave 1% all res per point before. Still not. I still think they should have made this higher. Heresy has been removed. Blades of the Forlorn has been moved into its position. Rite of Undeath grants 10% increased minion necrotic and elemental damage from 15 per point. It now has a 7-point threshold bonus, which grants 1% minion penetration per 5% overcapped necrotic or elemental resists. Overcapped well, we do tend to have overcapped necrotic. Might have changed now with all the changes on the passives. We might not get as much overcapped necrotic as we used to. Add a new node, Forbidden Teachings, in the old position of Blades of the Forlorn. +1 intelligence, +1 vitality per point. It has 3-point threshold bonus, which grants 1% minion critical strike chance per intelligence, and 1% more minion damage over time per vitality. Nice. Lanes of Malice now grants 5% chance per point to gain haste for 2 seconds on a minion kill or death, and 1% increased movement speed per point. It now has a 3-point threshold bonus that grants its previous effect of when you cast a spell, sacrifice 5% of your current health to give minions haste and frenzy for 5 seconds. My question is, does this have a cooldown? Because if it doesn't, it's gonna be slightly annoying. Types of Necromancy is now a 5-point node that grants +2 minion spell damage and 2% increased minion cast speed per point. Its previous effect of +1 maximum skeletal mage is now a 3-point threshold bonus, and this is great. 10 flat and 10 flat minion spell damage and 10% minion cast speed. This node sounds so nice. We're definitely gonna put points there. Add a new skill that it requires 30 points in the Lich Tree. Flay. Spirit step up to 3 meters towards an enemy. If not in range, they perform an arrow-raining slash. Each enemy killed by the melee attack will release a blood eruption, a spell dealing physical damage in an area. Enemies can be hit by both flay and all blood eruptions that occur. Now, this is a nice thing when you can the proc can also hit. Gains 2 melee physical damage per point of dexterity. The melee attack has 200% effectiveness of added melee damage. The blood eruption has 200% effectiveness of added spell damage. It's a mixed skill. Plasma Fountain, 8% more blood eruption damage per point. Every second melee attack with flay, which hits a boss or rare enemy, has 34% chance per point to trigger the blood eruption. Max 3 points. You can get it up to 100% chance. Ew, 12% more damage per point, 3% less attack speed per point, and -1 mana cost per point. How much mana does it cost? Oh, they didn't say. Well, okay. Interpretation Blade. While using a dagger, Flay has 10% more attack speed per point, max 3 points. Thirst of Dread. 50% increased area per point, plus 5 spell damage per point. Doubled if there's a bleeding enemy within 15 meters, max 3 points. Blood Revelry. When you create a blood eruption, you gain a stack of Blood Revelry. Up to 5. Direct use of Harvest or Rip Blood can consume a stack of Blood Revelry. You deal 10% more damage per point and gain 10% increased area effect per point. Blood eruptions have a -70% reduced delay before erupting. It also reduces the delay. Interesting. This actually looks very interesting if you want to mix it with Rip Blood or Harvest. Spirit Stride. 30% increased Spirit Step maximum distance. 12% chance per point to gain haste for 2 seconds when you directly use Flay and hit at least one enemy. This chance is tripled if Flay is a traversal skill. Oh, you can also make it a traversal skill. Okay, that guarantees you haste. Spirit Leap. The Spirit Step now has a maximum distance of 12 meters. Flay is now a traversal skill with a 5-second cooldown that will move you even if you do not have a valid target. Max 1 point. So yeah, the traversal conversion. Transference. Hitting a boss or enemy with Flay's melee attack transfers your active Hour of Decay to them for up to 6 seconds. Open Wounds. When you directly use Flay and hit at least one enemy with the melee attack, your active Aura of Decay gains 2% increased radius and 2% more ailment frequency per point for 4 seconds. Wonder if that also applies to the ailments applied to you. Bloodsoaked Blade. Here. That thing was way too strong. Bloodsoaked Blade. Yeah. Also applied. 25% of melee damage on your equipped axes or daggers is also applied as spell damage for the blood eruption per point. Max 2 points. Interesting. Deadly Plots. Play and all skills triggered by its skill tree deals 5% more spell damage per point per 100 maximum mana. This includes skills which have their own skill tree, such as Chaos Bolt, as long as they are triggered by this tree. Plus 2 mana costs per point. Oh, that's kinda crazy. So you can make Chaos Bolt trigger from this and deal more damage while triggered from this. Chaos Rip, directly using Flay and hitting at least one enemy with the melee attack, has a 0.5% chance per point per maximum mana to release a Chaos Bolt towards an enemy. Subs 2 mana per Chaos Bolt, max 2 points. So, at 1% chance. So if you have 100 mana, you have 100% chance. It's very easy to get this to 100. Wait, does that mean if you get this to 200, say if you get 200 mana, you get 200 Chaos Bolts? If it works like that, that could be interesting. Go for the throats, plus 2% critical strike chance and 0.5% of damage leeches health per point, max 3 points. Marrow Gnawer, 15% critical multiplier, critically hitting at least one enemy with Play. Melee attack has 25% chance per point to release Marrow Shards towards another enemy. Marrow Shards interaction. Decree of Slaughter, 8% more hit damage per point, doubled against low life enemies, max 4 points. Just more damage. Corrosive Slash, Flay inflicts explosive splash on hit, curse with reduced cold resistance and armor, and increases the target's chance to be frozen. Oh, so will you have a cold conversion? Misfortune, Blood Eruption has 8% increased area and deals 8% more hit damage per point for each of your curses that was on the enemy. Max 4 points. Spirit Geyser, Blood Eruption consumes 2 mana to release a Wandering Spirit. This can trigger up to 2 times per point per 4 seconds, max 3 points. An interaction with Wandering Spirit. 25% Grave Color, 25% chill chance, and 8% more damage per point. Another damage along with chill. Pretty nice. A pretty nice note, I would say. Blood Waltz, Blood Eruption spreads all bleeds on that enemy to one other enemy when it's within its range per point, max 3 points. So 3. You can spread 3 bleeds. All bleeds to 3 enemies. Spirit Step is removed. 10% increase attack speed, max 1 point. So it removes Spirit Step. Exquisite Blood. The melee attack is removed. Plays now a spell that creates the Blood Eruption. It scales with cast speed instead of melee attack speed. Modifiers to attack speed on this tree now affect cast speed. Also interesting. I really like what they've been doing with the skills. More options, more ways to build around it. Hemorrhage. 55% bleed chance and 10% increased bleed duration per point. So 75% bleed chance and 10% increase, 30% increased bleed duration. Pretty strong node. Dismember, 25% bleed chance, 15 more damage over time, and 3% less attack speed per point. Another strong node. Corrupted Blood, bleed chance from all sources converts to poison. Okay. Frostbite, blaze damage converted to cold, bleed chance from all sources converted to frostbite. 80 freeze rate. I'm gonna do a freeze leech. I will do a freeze leech. Hello, bom dia. Chill to the grave. More hit damage to chilled or frozen enemies per point. 10% plus 10 freeze rate per active skeleton or bone golem. Oh. So you can go with the frozen golems and get 40 or 80 freeze rate. So you can very easily get to 160 freeze. So insane. Especially considering if you go Bone Curse and spec into it, you can get 100% freeze rate from Bone Curse. Very interesting. Yeah, I can already see that I will do a Frostbite Lich this patch. Eventually. Scent of Death. Flay inflicts marked for death for 1 second per point. Flay instantly kills enemies below 3% health per point. Hello, loser. All these good. It's going okay. We had a few things to take care of in real life, so we haven't been able to stream much. Eh, now that that's done, we finally got around to getting through the patch notes on Ellie. And I already saw, I already know like 4 builds I'll have to do this season. So yeah, going pretty good. Prince of Pain, and we're on the start of the patch notes still. Prince of Pain, if you directly use Flay and hit at least one enemy, but not hit a boss or rare enemy, a spectral copy of Flay strikes a random nearby boss or rare enemy, max 1 point. That's a weird one. Macabre Dance, directly using Flay or hitting at least one enemy, you reduce the remaining cooldown of Reaper Form, or Reap, by 6% per point. This can occur up to 3 times per use of Reaper Form or Reap. Max 2 points. Did they change anything about Reaper Form? Spectral Nightmare, directly using Flay and hitting at least one enemy has a 10% chance per point to trigger a spectral copy of Flay against a nearby enemy if one would not be triggered otherwise. Spectral copies of Flay have a 20% increased area per point. 30% chance of repeating it. Kinda. Sounds good. Occult Offering. Directly using Flay consumes 9% of your current health and ward. Flay gains +1 melee damage per point per 30 health consumed and +1 spell damage per point per 30 ward consumed. This effect. By this effect, up to 12 of each per point. I wonder how... I'm guessing 9% per point, so you can make it consume a lot of health. Could be interesting. We'll see. Okay, Assemble Abomination. Base functionality has been reworked. Channel to absorb minions in a moderate area. When you release, summon a single hulking abomination, created all of those minions. 5% more damage per minion absorbed, up to 20. Once created, the abomination will devour any minions of the same type that were absorbed, restoring 10% of its max health. Minions from the same skill are considered the same type of minion. For example, skeleton warriors and skeleton archers are the same type. If your maximum allowed minions changes for a type that was devoured, the abomination will be unsummoned. Updated functionality allows you to choose which minions you will exclude from your army, using them to instead power up your abomination. The abomination no longer decays over time. I didn't get to play around with old abomination. I don't know, I'm not big on single big minion builds. Anywho, Abomination sub-skill changes. The Abomination basic attack now has 30 base damage and 150 effectiveness, from 18 and 100. And the base radius of 2.5 from 1.5. Two weaves damage and base radius are unchanged, but now stated on the node to 100% effectiveness and 50% more radius than the new basic attack. Storm now has 60 base and 300 effectiveness, from 30 and 150. Burning Souls now has a 40 base damage and 200% effectiveness, from 6 to 100. Arrow Nova has been replaced with Eternal Arrow, a bow attack with 100% damage effectiveness and 100% chance to recurve. Oh, so they put the recurve thing on Eternal Arrow. Interesting. Double Strike now has a 40 base damage and 200% effectiveness for each hit, and a base radius of 3.5. Also, skills available to the Abomination now have tooltips with the skill tree, which provide this information. Right, forgot to ask, and how have you been, loser? All good? Feeling better? You were kinda down, if I remember right, when the last time we spoke. Repugnant 3 changes. Repugnant Presence and Fractured End have swapped places. Repugnant Presence now grants 50% more health and threat generated per point. Up to 4 points. Fractured Hand now grants 20% damage reflected per point, and your Abomination disassembles into 1 Skeletal Vanguard per point. But these should still be limited to 3. Unless it changed something. Kinda eh. The Quick and the Dead has been replaced with Terrible Might, which grants 12% more damage per point and 2% reduced attack speed per point. Max 4 points. Sad to hear. No. But I can't say much about it. I'm not too good with dealing with that kind of stuff. I hope things have been going well. So let's go back into Ali so you can get distracted from it. Imprisoned Horror has been replaced with Contaminated Dreams, which grants 30% increase in cooldown recovery speed for all of the Abomination's ability. But your Abomination loses 5% health when using an ability with a cooldown. Max 1 point. Okay, interesting. Okay, I'm being quiet, that's fine. Nothing to do with you. Yeah, okay. Don't you worry about it. Vital Piece is now a 3-point node. It grants plus 1 soul per skeletal mage absorb, not scaled with allocated points. It also grants minus 0.5 seconds to the cooldown of devouring souls per point and 10% more damage for devouring souls per skeletal mage absorbed. Yeah, this is interesting because you can just summon skeletons to get his health up if you go with skeletons. Consume grants 3% of hit damage, leeches health from 5%, and can have a maximum of 3 points. I don't think this is gonna be all that worth. And a new node of Blood Corpse, Picky Eater. Your Abomination will not devour volatile zombies, even if they were used to make it. Max 1 point. That's interesting. Stitch Flesh has been reworked, now grants 5% more health per point and 5% maximum health restored on Devour. Max 4 points. Cavernous Carapace has been reworked. Your Abomination gains 10% more max health for 8 seconds each time it devours a minion. Up to 5 times per 8 seconds. Huh? Five times per second. So you can only get 50% more health every 8 seconds, is that it? A bit confusing. Added a new node of Stitch Flesh, Destruction Engine. Whenever your Abomination would devour a minion, you instead sacrifice that minion. Consumes 120% of sacrifice's mana cost. Oh, that is actually interesting. I can see a build with Abomination and skeletons and skeleton auto-summoning. Using this to pop out sacrifices. Although I'm still more partial to using cruelty and having a proper minion auto-bomber. Alchemy Mass has been replaced with Sharpened Bones. For each skeleton rogue absorbed, your Abomination gains 2% increased attack speed per point. For each skeleton warrior absorbed, your Abomination gains 1% more melee damage and 1% more health per point. For each skeleton archer absorbed, your Abomination gains 3% area per point. Max 4 points. And that's such a small area gain though. Oh no, it's still 12% per archer. Okay, never mind. Deadeye has been reworked. If skeleton archer is absorbed, your Abomination casts Eternal Arrow with a 4-second cooldown, a bow ability with 100% chance to recurve. Your Abomination also grants plus 1 bow damage per intelligence. Perfect Volley has been reworked. Eternal Arrow has a minus 0.25 seconds of cooldown per point, and for each skeleton archer absorbed, Eternal Arrow has 29% recurve chance per point. Max 4 points. Close of War now also grants Double Strike, more damage per skeleton warrior or skeleton rogue absorbed. And Holy Command has been replaced with Cruel Monstrosity, plus 2% critical strike chance per point and 1% increased movement speed per skeleton rogue absorbed. Max 3 points. Age of Undeath has been replaced with Commanding Presence. You can absorb summoning skeletons. Minions within 12 meters of your Abomination gain 10% increased attack speed. Oh. You can make your Abomination your totem pole for Dreadshade with this, and still get a benefit for attack speed for everything on top of it. That sounds nice. Engorgement has been reworked. 5% more damage and health per point per type of minion consumed among summon skeleton, skeletal mage, raid, and bone golem. Max 5 points. Epicurean has been removed. Death in the family has been reworked. If the abomination was made using at least one of every minion type mentioned by engorgement, it gains 20% more damage and 20% increased attack speed and movement speed per point. Wow. That's a lot of damage and attack speed. Meat Grinder has been reworked. Your abomination gets 5% increased attack speed for 5 seconds on kill, up to 20 times per 5 seconds. Each stack falls off separately. I guess it's nice for echoes, but I can see it, you using this for echoes, but then I don't know, because for boss fights this is completely useless. We should have a chance to on boss hit, I think. Like a low chance, just to have it keep it actually working on bosses, but not to this extent. Rapacious Protection has been replaced with Tower of Bones. Stomp has minus 0.5 seconds of cooldown per point for each golem absorbed. Stomp deals 40% more damage and has 30% increased area per point. So if you do this with Aaron's Will, and you grab like, it's 3 or 4 golems the maximum you can get. You can get Stomp dealing 120 times 4, 480 more damage, and 90 times 4, 180, 360% increased area. Interesting. Probably not good, but interesting. A funny little note to mess with. Add a new node of Repugnant Mass, Noxious Stench. Your abomination casts Aura of Rot, inflicting poison to itself and nearby enemies every second. Influenced by its chance to poison on hit. Plus 20% chance to poison on hit per skeleton rogue absorbed. Okay. Arrow of Decay. Your chance to poison on hit now applies to Arrow of Decay instances at 40%. When Arrow of Decay is active, you take 30% less poison damage from all sources. You now also take 50% less damage from your own Arrow of Decay. It's multiplicative to the less poison damage taken from all sources. I think I'll still won't like Arrow of Decay. Arrow of Decay now updates after stat changes, removing the need to recast the ability after modifying its skill tree or changing gear, so you can no longer snapshot it either. 3 changes. Undertow grants 25% slow chance per second. Corrosive Aura has been reworked, now grants 50% armor shred per chance per second per point. Need an additional 10% per point, or 20 per point of your chance to shred armor on hit as chance per second. 4 points, 40% armor shred of your armor shred applies to decay. Armor Bane has been replaced with Frost Bloodfront, converts area of decay, Aura of Decay to physical, inflicting bleed instead of poison. All of Aura of Decay's effects related to poison and poison resistance are converted to bleed. Chance effectiveness 30%. And physical resistance. Effects from Aura of Decay, which granted less poison damage taken, instead grant less physical damage over time taken. So this would work quite well with that other new amulet, Primal Amulet, that gives you, converts necrotic poison, what was it? To physical damage. Tipping Wounds has been removed, and Unending Sickness has been moved to its place. Mana Blight grants 12% increased ailment frequency per point from 10%. Carrion Poison has been replaced with Cold Death, converts Aura of Decay to cold, inflicting frostbite instead of poison. All of Aura of Decay effects related to poison and poison resistance are converted to frostbite. I mean, this is nice. If you like Aura of Decay, now you have a lot more ways to build Aura of Decay. I really don't like the deals damage to you part of Aura of Decay. Add a new node in ending sickness old position. Frozen touch. 10% chance per point when hit while Aura of Decay is active to retaliate with freezing blast. 4-second cooldown. With a 4-second cooldown. Aura of Terror has been removed. I really don't get why this is a 4-pointer with a 10% chance when it has a 4-second cooldown. I really don't understand. When would you ever spec into this? More than 1 point. And even that 1 point is dubious. Aura of Terror has been removed and Chill to the Bone has been moved to this position. It now grants 25% chill chance per second from 15% and max 4 points from 3% from T. Plague Rat now also grants 25% increased area per point from 15%, max 3 points from 4. So you get a bit more area with less points. Bubonic Aura grants 20% chance to inflict plague per second per point from 12%, and now also grants 5% more damage per point. Oh, that's actually a very nice buff. Corruption's Poison Nova now has a limit of 2 per 3 seconds from 5-second cooldown. Sounds much better. Death Bloom now grants +1 limit per 3 seconds per point from -1 second to cooldown. Putrid Bomb has been reworked. While RFTK is active, you leave behind a Putrid Bomb. Whenever you use Traversal skill or evade, Putrid Bombs explode after 1 second delay. They no longer have 25% increased poison effect or 100% increased duration. They now have 250% effectiveness of your chance to poison on hit. That's a lot. 250% effectiveness is a lot. Incipient Decay has been reworked. Hour of Decay consumes 10 mana to emit the defiling nova every 15 seconds, as long as a boss or rare enemy is nearby. Its effect has a 2% increased frequency per point, per 10% uncapped poison resistance. Max 3 points. Increased frequency per point. Ah, okay, so 6% frequency per 10% uncapped poison res. That can be a lot. Poison Skin has been removed to Chill to the Bone's old position. Poison Bolt, Poison Barrage, Loathing, Feast of Souls, and Growing Hunger have been removed. A new load in Loathing's old position. Fester. While stationary with Hour of Decay active, you gain 2 stacks of Fester per second, up to 3 maximum stacks per point. You lose 2 stacks per second while moving. Fester grants your active Hour of Decay 6% more damage per stack. If you're standing still, Standing still mechanics is never... Always kinda dubious in this kind of games. Add a new node connected to Fester, Rotten Core, +2 max Fester stacks per point, 10% reduced rate of Fester stack loss when moving. Okay. Add a new node connected to Fester, Virulence, you gain Fester stacks 50% faster while channeling. Ah, okay, so make it more... pair it up with channeling better. Makes sense. A new node connected to Fester, Poison Bolt. When you lose a stack of Fester or gain a stack while at max stacks, you fire a Poison Bolt at a nearby enemy. Okay, now this makes Fester way more interesting. Add a new node connected to Poison Bolt and check growth. 8% chance per point that when you lose a stack of Fester, instead gain a stack. 10% increased rate of Fester stack loss while moving per point. Okay. 34% chance. So this could actually make the whole standing still moving mechanic be quite interesting. Okay, Death Seal. Move to require 35 points in the Lich Tree from 30. New functionality. Seal your current health, preventing you from moving above its current value for up to 3 seconds. While sealed, you take less damage, equal to half of your percent missing health. At 90% of hit damage taken is dealt over 4 seconds. Can be deactivated early. When Death Seal ends, unleash a wave of death, dealing heavy necrotic damage. 12-second cooldown. No longer removes ward and does not prevent gaining ward. Wave of Death now has 100% base damage and 500% effectiveness, from 60 and 300. Now the 10-second cooldown, from 5. Why does it say 12 seconds and now it says 10? I am confused. Necrosis has been replaced with Glimpse of Pain. When you kill an enemy while sealed, clear 4% of delayed damage per point. Triple if it's a boss or an enemy, max 3 points. So 12 or 36%. I do think it looks way more interesting now than before, and now it's not you must take this node, while it's still being pretty good. Because it's been replaced with, well, if you're playing low life, you're probably gonna run this all the time. Because then since it no longer removes ward, it's just free damage reduction on low life. Because it's been replaced with, leopard skin has been replaced with radiation suffering. Waves of death have a 25% chance per point. Shred necrotic resist. Max 4 points. Enter the dam. That's 2 seconds per point to the duration of Wandering Spirits if it's active when you activate that steel. Corrupted Conscience has been reworked. 5% per point of all delayed damage is cleared when Death Seal ends. So 25% at maximum. 5 points. Mortal Pulse now grants 40% less wave of death damage, 60% less. Tachycardia has been reworked. You release a wave of death when you cast Reap or Evade. Well, okay. An evade build where you're just spamming evade to do wave of death. Sounds fun. And you know the Desperate Shroud, Frozen Form. The wave of death's base damage converted to cold and effects that relate to necrotic resistance are converted to cold resistance. Yeah, we're definitely making a frostbite lich at some point. Grim Scale has been removed. Postulant Presence has been reworked. While sealed, you take 3% less poison damage per point per 10% missing health, up to 50% missing health. Max 4 points. Second wave has been reworked. Waves of Death leech 1% of damage dealt per point. Karen Breath now also grants plus 4% critical strike chance to waves of death per point. The Quickened Dead has been reworked. When Death Seal ends, you gain a haste for 4 seconds. That's 1 point. Flesh Pact has been reworked. When Death Seal ends, recover 30% of your missing health. That's 1 point. Okay, it's all very interesting stuff. Doomcall now grants 20% more Death Wave hit damage per damage stack from 10%, but caps out at 400% more hit damage. Okay. So 20 stacks. 20 damage stacks and it caps out. Moratorium now grants 12% increased Death Seal duration per point, plus 1 second. Devouring Release now casts Hungering Souls every second, every 1.5 seconds. Insatiable Soul now grants 34% increased Hungering Souls frequency per point, from 28. Also grants when you cast Reap or Evade, you'll release Hungering Souls for 25% of Death Seal's maximum duration per point. Okay. 3 points, so 75% of... You can get to releasing a lot of Hungering Souls with this. Hey, Dreadshade. Oh, Dreadshade is also getting changes. Wisdom of the Dead now also grants 8% increased cast speed per point. Which is Wisdom of the Dead? Oh, we're gonna have to look at this on a proper thing. Martyrdom grants 30 armor per vitality from 35 and 10% increased health decay from 25. So a bit more armor and less health decay. Still not sure if this is gonna be worth it. Flesh Harvest effect has been clarified to state that increased buff effect is always based on the target's health, even if cast on an enemy. And you know of Lingering Doom, Wasting Essence. Affected minions deal 8% more damage over time per point. Nice. Doom Wrath has been removed. Egoism now requires Vile Gas instead of Pernicious Pact. Egoism has been reworked. The target minion receives plus 5% crit chance, plus 10% crit multiplier, and plus 5% chance to be crit per point. It's maximum 2 points. Instead of doubling the crit. Okay. So Bit of a nerf, I guess? Spectral distance has been reworked. Red Shade has 5% increased area per active minion when it was cast, up to 100%. 1 point. Okay. Doombrand now deals 80% base damage, 400% effectiveness from 42 to 100%. Doombrand now applies much more frequently, reducing instances of newly created minions dying before receiving the brand. Harvests. Intelligence scaling now grants 4% increased damage from +1 melee necrotic damage. Dexterity scaling now grants +2 melee minion necrotic damage per point. Wow. Wow. And now has 100% damage effectiveness. I still think it should have more. But wait, at least Harvest got buffed, guys. Finally. Just refocusing the camera. Because of the light. 3 changes. Harrowing Blade grants 24% necrotic resistance threat per point from 20. It also grants 10% more damage over time per point. Nice. Really nice. Life Eater requires 2 points in Harrowing Blade from 4. I can't remember what Life Eater is. Should be the node to the right, maybe? Add a new node of Harrowing Blade, Morbid Fury. 4% increased attack speed per point, and another 2% increased attack speed if dual wielding. Max 4 points, nice. Great Side now also grants an additional 10% increased area per point if using a two-handed weapon. That's per point. Okay. Spectral Whetstone now also grants 2% increased attack speed per point. Learn Weakness grants 25% global increased critical strike chance from 20% and 8% more global critical multiplier from 5% per point if you have hit a cursed enemy with Harvest recently. Max 4 points. Really nice. To pair it up with Play, really nice. Steel Youth has been reworked. It now grants 55% chance per point to grant haste for 2 seconds on crit. Max 2 points. Okay. Symbol of Loss now has a maximum of 4 points from 5. Mind Harvest grants 6 ward gained on cursed hit per point from 2, up to 10 times per second, for 5 seconds, from no limit. So 60 ward for 5 seconds. That's 12 ward per second. It also grants more damage per point. Okay. And maxed out at 3 points. Okay, then that's a bit more acceptable. Mirror Soul has been removed. Ghost Conduit has been reworked. When you directly use Harvest, you gain 1 mana per enemy killed or boss or red enemy hit. Max 2 points. So 2 mana. A new node of Ghost Conduit, Agonizing Siphon. When Harvest kills an enemy or hits at least 1 boss or enemy, you have a 25% chance per point to gain a Stolen Spirit. Up to 5. At 5 stacks, your next Harvest hit against a boss or enemy consumes all stacks to release a Wandering Spirit per stack. Max 4 points. Okay, 5 Wandering Spirits. A new node off of Mind Harvest. Shatter. Harvest base damage converted to cold. Intelligence now grants 4% frostbite chance on hit per point. Dexterity now grants cold melee damage instead of necrotic. All bleed chance converted to frostbite chance. I get it, he doesn't get it. Hello, Stall. The Reaper grants 24% chance to poison on hit from 30%. Max 4 points from 5. So yeah, another more frostbite / cold lich support. Death Inside has been moved to require Put the Reaper or Bloodbringer and has been reworked. 5% more hit damage per point per unique ailment on the target. Up to 30% per point. Okay, that's a lot of damage. And how are you, Stall? Everything good? Crimson Death has been moved. It only required Bloodbringer and has been adjusted. It still converts Harvest-based damage to physical. Intelligence now also grants 4% bleed chance per point. Dexterity now grants physical melee damage instead of necrotic. Eat soon. Sleep soon. You do well. Hope you have a good rest when you do go to sleep. Rate has been reworked when you directly use Harvest and it touches one enemy. 5% of your missing health gained as ward. At 1 point. Well, again, more low life support. Finality now also grants 4% more damage per point. Yeah, we're gonna have to look at it, but it sounds like Harvest got a lot more damage multipliers on and more damage to it. A lot more. Spirit Charge has been replaced with Seeds of Undeath. When Harvest kills an enemy or hits a boss or enemy, 10% chance to summon a volatile zombie, consuming 50% of his mana cost. Effecting will occur up to 5 times per 3 seconds. Oh, interesting. Marrow Showers now has 25% base damage and 125% effectiveness of added damage from 22 and 110, so Marrow Showers buffed. Grave Reaper Form. Grave Chill now converts Poison Chance to Frostbite instead of Chill. Nice. Pestilence no longer prevents Reap from critically hitting. Effects in the tree which grant Poison Chance on the duration are now converted to Frostbite or Bleed by the Grave Chill or Blood Moon Reaver nodes. Nice. Unholy Dominion's description has been updated to clarify it makes Reap no longer share a cooldown with reversal skills in general, not just Transplant. Rip Blood. This is also something I was very interested to see what that changed. Now hits all enemies in a line in front of you. Each enemy hit still creates a orb of blood that turns to heal you. Eviscerate has been removed. Crimson Flood grants 20% increased area for blood splatter per point from 20%. One less point. And same area. Splatter now grants 35% chance per point for a blood splatter on hit, up to 1 splatter per point from a single cast of Rip Blood. Enemies hit by Rip Blood can't be hit by Blood Splatter, and enemies by Blood Splatter can be hit by a Blood Splatter from the same cast hit. Max 4 point. They only get 1 Blood Splatter. The Blood Splatter might be less interesting now. Necrotic Unity grants 2% area increased area per minion, up to 20, from no limit. Gushing Wound has been moved to new branch and grants 25% bleed chance from 20%, max 4.5, so easy 100% bleed chance. And you know of Gushing Wound, Revile, 10% more damage over time per point. Good. Add a new node of Gushing Wound, Blood Bond. When Rip Blood hits a boss or rare enemy, it adds blood tether to target, max 1 point. Nice. Add a new node in Gushing Wound's old position, Volatility, plus 3% critical strike chance per point. 9% flat crit, nice. Add a new node of Volatility, Carnage. When you directly use Rip Blood and hit a boss or enemy, or at least 3 enemies, you cast Marrow Shards in the same direction. Getting very, very, very interesting. Coagulation now has a maximum of 12 stacks from 4 and consumes 6 stacks to trigger its effects from 4. Now requires that blood orbs return health to gain a stack from requiring that the returned health restores excess health. Oh, it's effectively buffed. Because Rip Blood can now hit multiple enemies at once, it's now possible to gain multiple stacks from a single cast. Good. So Coagulation is also going to be really good now, I think. Necrotic Inspiration now grants 2%. From 1.5 more damage per minion you control, up to 20%. Blood Catalyst has been reworked. When you directly use Rip Blood and kill at least 1 enemy, Rip Blood will recast from that enemy's position towards another enemy, doing Rip Blood's mana cost. These recasts can also trigger this effect. Rip Blood no longer creates Rip Bloods. Oh, so now you can chain indefinitely? Nice. Rip Spirit now also converts bleed chance to damage chance. Arcane Absorption grants plus 1 spell damage per point from 2 for 6 seconds when you directly cast Rip Blood. Its effect is now doubled for Rip Blood. So a bit of a nerf for other skills, but still good for Rip Blood if you're using it for Rip Blood. So I can still... nice. Everything... It seems to be even better than what it was before, and everything works perfectly fine. Good. I probably don't even need to invest into Splatter now to make this my starting skill. Ah, so they did nerf the health gain from the blood orbs from 10 to 5. That makes sense. And quenching grants +2 health from blood orbs instead of 4. Mana Fist grants 1 mana from blood orbs instead of 3, but the amount of mana gain is now tripled from bosses and rare enemies. Okay, so it still gives you +3 mana when fighting bosses. It's just on AoE to control the mana. Makes sense. Sacrifice now has 80 base damage and 400% effectiveness of added damage. So they effectively doubled sacrifices. Man, I really want to do the auto bomber necro now. Necrotic Audience creates 8% more damage per point with 3 or more minions from 6%. Remove the intelligence scaling listed on the blood tether and coagulated blood as sub-skills the inherent attribute scaling from the skill that triggered them. Just description change. Oh. Okay. Mage, runic invocations. Antipodum Assembly has 180 base damage and 900% effectiveness of added from 160 and 800%. Dragon's Breath has 60 base damage and 300% effectiveness of added damage from 40 and 200. Igneous Rain creates 12 projectiles over its duration from 10. Ilkir's Storm Star Impact has 80 base damage and 400% effectiveness of added damage from 50 and 250. The spugs have 20 base damage every 0.4 seconds and 250 effectiveness of added damage per second from 14 and 175. Lightning Web has 50 base damage and 250 effectiveness from 30 and 150. Eowyn's Doomfrost has 80 base damage and 400% effectiveness of added damage from 50 and 250%. Iron Spiral has 40 base damage and 200% effectiveness of added damage from 35 and 170. Effectively, all of these got buffed. All of those runic invocations got buffed. Primalist. Aspect of the Boar grants 15% reduced damage taken and 30% decreased bleed duration. Wait. So now you get bleed duration along with the reduced damage? That's nice. Aspect of the Shark grants 50% more melee damage, 75% increased melee damage and 10% increased melee attack speed. Actually quite nice. Now the increased aspect of the shark effect nodes are gonna be way more interesting. Aspect of Viper grants 100% chance to poison on hit and 20% more damage over time. From 100% increased. Oh, that's such a big buff. Aspect of the Lynx grants 5% critical strike chance from 100% increased critical strike chance and 100% increased stun chance. That's really nice. Let me just eat a cookie. I need to eat something. Armenian, meanwhile, there's a lot of changes for Beastmaster. Really a minion focus. Savagery grants 7% increased minion damage per point from increased minion melee damage. Nice change. Temperate Teeth grants 1.5 minion damage each as health. Again, it's a nice change, giving you more options. Core Heart has been rewarded, 2% endurance per point. When you use reversal skill or evade, you gain aspect of war for 1 second per point. Is this the one where you got hit? Or is it the one later in the tree? Not sure. Plus Quarry grants aspect of war, 8% bleed chance per point and 15% penetration per bleed per point. Yeah, this is a very nice change for if you want to actually build bleed. The chase now has a 5-point threshold bonus. After being revived, your companions cannot be damaged for 4 seconds. Wow. Deep Wounds has been replaced with Predator. Plus 1 dexterity per point. And 1% increased movement speed per point. Max 8 points. 5-point threshold bonus. You and your minions have 1% critical strike multiplier per 2 points of your dexterity. Really nice. Hundred of the Deep has been replaced with weathered elements. 10% increased companion damage per point. And 2% shared elemental resistance per point. Max 5 points, 3-point threshold bonus. Your companions gain 1+1 spell damage per 3 points of your strength. Actually really nice. Life in the Wilderness. Your endurance and endurance threshold apply to your companion's effect has been moved to a 5-point threshold bonus. Okay. Makes sense. It's way too cheap. You just have to put 1 point and it worked. Nature's Embrace has been moved to require 25 points in Beastmaster. Natural Bond has been removed to require 35 points in Beastmaster. 30 points in Beastmaster. These are behind the chain now, right? Oh, check. Dragon Slayer has been removed. Circle of Life now also grants Dragon Slayer's effect. 5% chance per point to gain aspect of shark on hitting boss or rare enemy. Yeah, we'll have to look at the tree. How do you know the natural bonds of position? Embodiment. 10% increased aspect duration per point and 6+6 health per point. Max 5 points. 3-point bonus threshold. Whenever you would gain aspect of the shard, your minions gain it as well. Really nice. Hawk Wings has been moved to Nature's Embraceable position. Critical Bite has been removed. Rated Claws now has a 4-point threshold bonus. Aspect of the Lynx also grants 3% of critical damage leeches health. Rated Claws nice. Okay. So if you have a 100% crit chance, it's effectively 2% leech. Breeding Frenzy allows Aspect of Shard to stack up to 5 times from 10. Bit of a nerf, but makes sense. Ancient Might has been reworked, grants 3% reduced bonus damage taken from critical strikes per point for you and your minions, 10 health per point, and 10% increased minion health per point. Max 10 points. 5-point threshold bonus, +1 to level of minion skills. That's actually quite a nice 5-pointer. And you know the critical bite's position, Exemplar, +2 strength per point and +2 dexterity per point. Max 5 points. 3-point threshold bonus, +1 to max companions with at least 100 combined strength and dexterity. Okay. More companions. Primal Aspects has been rewarded, 8% increased effect of aspects on companions per point. 100% of damage redirected to your highest health minion per point, max 10 points. Yeah, I can see a lot of people running Primalist this season. With all these changes, I can see a lot of portal builds and stuff like that. Skills. Excited Bolt now has maximum damage bonus of 300. I don't know what that is. Not quite. The harder they fall, against 15% more initial slam hit damage against bosses and rare enemies. So a slight nerf. Capture gain grants 12% more initial damage per point. Odyssey grants 50% more initial damage per point. So the Earthquake was overall slightly nerfed. Serpent Strike. First Streams Fury notice Serpent Strike no longer lose the poison tag. Shadow Immunity grants 1% more venom damage per poison per point, up to 100% more per point. And 1% more serpent venom damage per frostbite per point, up to 100% per point. Previously had no limit on bolt. These effects are also no longer doubled against enemies at high health. So yeah, they had to cap this. People are doing some really insane builds with this kind of thing. The Bear's Roar ability now heals it for 25% of its maximum health on use. So Bear was also changed from 50 per enemy hit. Yeah, a bit different. Belling Roar has been moved to be connected to the root node and grants the roar 10% increased area per point from 30% and 30% increased healing effectiveness per point from 50%. It has maximum of 2 points now from 1, so you can effectively double that and have Bear heal half its HP almost. And you know, connected to Belling Roar, Mother Bear. Your Bear's Roar also grants itself and your minions within range less damage taken per point for 6 seconds. Ah, okay, just minions, not you. For a moment I thought that was kinda busted. And you know, connected to Belling Roar, Frighten. Your Bear's Roar inflicts 1 stack of frailty on enemies per point. Okay. And you know, it connects to Frighten, Guardian. Your Bear's Roar also grants you 5% of damage taken redirected to your highest health minion per point for 6 seconds. Okay, nice. 10% damage mid, kinda. And you know, it connects to Lacerate, Bestial Fury. 8% increased attack speed per point. Max 4 points. Retaliatory Thorns, Searing Thorns, and Wing Thorns have been removed. Thorn Bear and the related nodes have been reworked. These are the new nodes for Thorn Bear. Thorn Bear, your bear's basic attack and swipes release a Thorn Burst, a spell dealing physical damage in an area around the bear, max 1 point. Thorn Fur, your bear also releases Thorn Burst when hit up to 2 times per second, to 2 times per point for 4 seconds. So 6 times per 4 seconds? Couldn't they just make it like 3 times per 2 seconds? I guess it's better if you have not long fights. Barbed Thorns. Thorn Burst deals 10% more damage per point and has 25% bleed chance per point. Max 4 points. Your bear deals 10% more poison damage per point and Thorn Burst has 25% chance per point. Treading Thorns. Thorns Burst has 35% armor chance per point with a max of 3 points. A new node connected to assign the minion, Ground Shaking Might. Your bear can cast Earthquake with a 6-second cooldown. When cast this way, Earthquake uses your bear stats, but your Earthquake 3. Earthquakes cast by your bear deal 50% less damage. Max 1 point. How do you cast Earthquake? Or does it just cast automatically? And a new node connected to Ground Shaking Might, Thorn Eruption. Your bear has 12% chance per point to cast Thorn Burst from each enemy hit by Earthquake. This chance is tripled against bosses and rare enemies. And a new node connected to Ground Shaking Might, Renewed Force. Your bear gains an additional charge for Earthquake and directly cast Warcry or enter Werebear form. Your bear's Earthquake cooldown is reset. And a new node connected to Thick Hide and Flinching. Your bear has 12% more health regeneration per point, and while you have an active bear companion, you have 1% more health regen per point. Wait, is this your werebear or your companion bear? Because now I'm confused. Added a new node connected to Endless Rampage, Storm Beast. Your bear gained 100% shock chance and their attacks have their base physical converted to lightning. Your bear also gains the ability to teleport towards enemies with a 8-second cooldown. You gain a traversal. Summon Raptor now also has dexterity scaling, granting plus 12 health at 4% increased damage per point. Rampage grants 40% more damage from 40% increased damage. Ah, that's actually quite nice. And its duration is now 4 seconds from 5. Vicious Rampage grants 30% increased rampage effect from 25% and Get slightly inert, because that's a big damage gain. Menacing Aura has been reworked. While rampaging, your raptor hits instantly kill enemies below 6% health. Max 2 points. Okay. So 12% killing strike. Primal Rage has been reworked. Rampage grants your raptor 20% less damage taken for the duration. Also nice. Predator grants plus 3% critical strike chance per point, from 40% increased critical strike chance. I guess Zambriel is gonna be happy, because I know he was messing with raptors. And you know, it's connected to Predator, Brutal Shredding. Plus 15% critical strike chance multiplier per point, and 45% armor chance per point. So crit, multi, and armor shred all in one. Nice. Challenger also sets Rampage cooldown to 50% of its normal cooldown when used, and must be off cooldown to trigger. Let's see what Challenger is. Cornered. Grants 1% more damage per point per 1% missing health, up to 50% more per point. From 1% per 1%, the limit max 3 points from 2. Okay, so now it has a limit. Broken Tooth grants 10% increased attack speed from 30%, and your raptor loses 5% of current health on melee attack while above 50% health. From 10% chance to lose 10% current health, no health condition. Okay. So you get it permanently and without losing anything when they reach 50% HP. It's just a lower increase of attack. If this is a 1-pointer, it's okay. If it's... I'm guessing this is a... I can't remember. I think it was a 1-pointer. Tear Flash grants plus 40% bleed chance per point, from 40% melee bleed chance. I wonder how... I don't think they have any spells. Acidic Vial has been reworked. Grants plus 25% blind chance and 25% poison chance, and 25% slow chance. So poison and slow. Infected Wounds has been removed. Scent of Blood grants 10% more melee damage per point, from 10% more damage to bleeding targets. Oh, so 10% flat without conditional. And for the kill has been reworked. When a bleeding enemy dies, your raptor has 1% chance per stack of bleed on that enemy to gain haste for 3 seconds. 1 point. Ravage has been reworked. Grants 1% more melee damage per bleed on the enemy, up to 25. Like 3 points, so up to 75% bleed. More melee damage per bleed. Interesting. Laser Wings grants 8% more damage per second and 10% increased area effect per point, but only granting plus 5 melee physical damage per point. Oh, that's a pretty big buff, I would say. Expert Flash has been reworked. Your raptor has 6% increased attack speed per point, double it if it has killed recently, and with a maximum of 3 points. So 16 or 32? No, 18 or 36. Add a new node connected to Razor Wings. Volcanic adaptation. Your raptor becomes a Dragon Raptor. The base physical damage of its melee attacks convert to fire, and bleed chance from all sorts convert to ignite chance for you and your raptor. Your raptor gains the Fire Breath ability, dealing fire spell damage over time with an 8-second cooldown. You can get fire raptors? That sounds fun. Added a new node connected to Volcanic Adaptation, Mortal Lungs. Your raptor's Fire Breath cooldown is reduced by 0.5 seconds per point, and Fire Breath deals 10% more damage per point, with a max of 4 points, so up to 2 seconds cooldown reduction. Add a new node connected to Mortal Lungs, Hot Streak. Rampage resets the cooldown of Fire Breath. Iridescent Plumage grants 12% elemental resist per point, and 100 dodge rating per point, from 80 and 88% and 80. Max 4 points. Brilliant Display is now affected by cooldown modifiers, meaning it will trigger more often if your raptor has increased cooldown recovery speed. Good. Screech now has an 8-second cooldown, from 10 and also hits enemies, dealing 20 base physical damage with 100% damage effectiveness. Nice if you're doing bleed, I suppose. Your splitting roar now also reduces the cooldown of Screech by 0.5 seconds per point, max 4 points. So 1.5. Add a new node connected to Screech and Volcanic Adaptation. Clever girl. The Raptor has 15% increased cooldown recovery speed per point. So up to 60%. They really changed a lot of things in Primalist. I mean, for being a necro slash lich related, necro skills saw very little change, no changes really, only abomination. Kinda sad. That is kinda sad. Now also has dexterity scale. Summon Saber 2. Now also has dexterity scaling, granting 12 health and 12% increased damage per point. Saber 2's basic attack now has a 15 base damage and 75% damage effectiveness. No, it actually... No, it got nerfed damage because it got 56% more attack speed. I guess it might be better to do bleed now? No. Prowling Juggernaut grants 15% more health per point from 10%, max 4 points from 5. Frozen Fur grants 25% cold resistance per point, and now also grants 8% more health per point. Nostalgia has been removed. Constitution has been replaced with Ferocity. 4% increased attack speed per point, and 10% more Flurry Swipes damage per point. Max 5 points. Cornered Beast has been removed and now connects to Ferocity. Pounce has been replaced with Destructive Power. Your Sabertooth's attack have a 5% chance per point to trigger Upheaval. Well, that's interesting. Upheaval cast in this way uses your Sabertooth stats but your Upheaval tree. This chance is halved if Upheaval creates multiple fault lines. Max 4 points. So max 20% chance or 10% if it has multiple lines. And new node in Cornered Beast's sole position, Earth-Shaking Entrance. When your Sabertooth leaps, it uses the Upheaval when it lands. So it will give you a build for Sabertooth where you're using it along with Upheaval. That sounds interesting. Savage Catalyst gains 6% chance per point from 5 to use Flurry Swipes when it directly uses a melee attack and hits at least one enemy. Max 4 points. So 24% chance? Considering it has more attack speed now, it should grant you more procs. Saber Maul grants 8% more melee damage per point from 6 and 15% decreased melee area per point. 10. So buffed. Heavy Paws grants 8% more melee damage from 40%. Okay, that's a big change. Keen Senses grants plus 3% critical strike chance per point from 30% increased critical strike chance. Opportunistic Hunter grants plus 25% critical multiplier per point from 25%? Maybe it either got nerfed or got buffed, and this is wrong. Gouging Claws no longer grants 34% armor shred per point. Now also grants 35% armor shreds per point, max 3 points. Agility and Deadly. Agile and Deadly grants 8% increased attack speed per point from 6% and 6% increased movement speed per point from 4%. So buffed? Buffed but less point investment. So it's essentially the same. Slightly buffed, I guess. Frenzy node has been reworked, now grants your Sabertooth Frenzy for 2 seconds after using Flurry Swipes. Ooh. That's kinda crazy. Frostfang grants flat cold damage per point, plus 5 flat cold damage. From 4. Slight buff, I guess. Ancestral Hunter now has this effect can trigger up to 10 times per 5 seconds from no limit. Add a new node connected to Ancestral Hunter, Ancestral Favor. Your Ancestral Sabertooths have 40% increased duration per point of your attunement. Max 1 point. Ice Tiger now also converts bleed chance from all sources to frostbite chance for your Sabertooth. Icebringer has been reworked. Your Sabertooth has plus 34% chance frostbite chance per point and 10% shield chance per point. The max of 3 points. Prime Heart has been reworked. Your Sabertooth deals 8% more melee damage per point per stack of chill on the target. 3 points. Northwind has been reworked. Your Sabertooth gains plus 1 cold melee damage per 2 points of your dexterity. Max 1 point. That can be a pretty decent amount of flat. Summon Scorpion now also has dexterity scale, granting 12 health and 4% increased damage per point. Steel Carapace no longer grants 8% increased size per point, now grants 8% more health per point. Buff. Venomous Maws grants 25% poison chance per point from 15%. Buff. And Venomous Spray's required ailment can now be converted by Cold Conversion or Lightning Conversion. If Lightning Converted gains 3% more hit damage per stack of shock, instead of typical 1% per stack. Pinches and Pokes no longer grants 10% increased size per point, now grants 4% increased attack speed per point. Okay. Another buff. Maternal Instincts now summons baby scorpions every 5 seconds from every 10 seconds. Buff. Fertility Rites has been replaced with Small Target, which grants baby scorpions 50% more dodge rating per point, with a max of 2 points. Chromatic Carapace grants 15% elemental resistance per point from 10, and it also grants 15% increased area effect for the scorpion abilities point. And it's now a max of 4 points instead of 5. Add a new node connected to Chromatic Carapace and Steel Carapace. Reverberating Strike. Your Scorpion's Steel Strikes cause a large avalanche boulder to fall on the target. Avalanche boulders cast this way use your Scorpion stats but your avalanche tree. Scorpion is not a Beastmaster only skill, is it? It's not. You can actually do a shaman with summon Scorpion for more avalanche procs. Nice. Not going to get, yeah. Ice Sting gains 10% more cold damage per point from 6% and 75% freeze rate multiplier per point from 60 with a max of 4 points instead of 5. Get Over Here has been replaced with Frozen Winds. Your Scorpion has 25% chance per point to cast Maelstrom whenever you do. Maelstrom's cast by your Scorpion in this way use your Scorpion stats but your Maelstrom tree. Max 4 points. That's really interesting. Rest for the Wicked no longer connects to Noxious Carapace, now also grants flat crit chance, plus 3% crit chance per point. Thunder Stinger now converts poison chance from all sources to shock chance for your Scorpion. Shock Nova ability now has 80 base damage and 400% effectiveness, from 60 and 300. Shock and Claw grants damn it, that's such a memey name. Grants plus 15% shock chance per point from 12%. Add a new node connected to Thunder Stinger, Storm Conduit. Your Storm Bolts will target your Scorpion, granting it a stack of charge up to a maximum of 20 stacks. Your Scorpion's Shock Nova consumes all stacks to deal 20% more damage per stack. Wow. So you can do a bit of a shaman build with this. Deeper Puddle now leaves behind a poison pool for 4 seconds from 1 second per point. Max 1 point from 4. Summon Spriggan. Add a new node connected to our Aura of Loyalty or of Words. Your Spriggan's healing aura grants additional effects based on your number of active companions. For each wolf, it grants 3% increased attack speed per point. For each stormcrow, it grants 12% increased mana regen per point. For each raptor, it grants 6% critical strike multiplier per point. Max 2 points. Interesting. I wonder how it works with squirrels. If squirrels count as wolves and it gets 6% attack speed per squirrel. It's something that would need to check out. Add a new node connected to our loyalty or of veracity or Sprig and Zillinger grants additional effects based on your active companions. With a pair, it grants 3% of maximum health gained as endurance threshold per point. With a Sabertooth, it grants 15% increased dodge rating per point. With a Scorpion, it grants 15% area effect per point. With a maximum of 3 points. And then there was a bug fix, where our of loyalty was not affecting the healing granted to minions. Okay, summon crows. Crow Storm gains 30% more damage per active crow from 50%. Nerf. Thunderous Blast grants 10% more damage per active crow from 15. Another nerf. Hunt has been replaced with Permanent Bond. You have an additional wolf companion at all times. This wolf does not count towards your companion limit. Okay. Primal Resonance. When this effect triggers a companion ability, that ability will now target the enemy that was hit instead of your cursor position. This is intended to make it more intuitive and useful for abilities like Crowstorm. Okay. Item affix and enemy balance. Endurance while channeling Warpath now grants 33 to 36% endurance at tier 6 and 37 to 40% at tier 7 from a fixed 30% in both cases. Add a new prefix for daggers, one-handed axes and two-handed axes, which grants additional melee and necrotic spell damage. Ooh. So for Lich. Add a new level of Flay, preventing prefix for body armor, which grants additional skill levels to Flay and increased area or area skills. Of the Bulwark Sentinel Idol, affix grants 176 to 380 block, effectiveness from 176 to... Okay, they got nerfed. Okay, so block effectiveness Sentinel Idols got nerfed. Overall. Dreaded Widow's Fanged, Biting, Scorching, Illuminating, and Fate Weaver's Weaver Idol affixes grant 1 to 2 penetration from 1 to 3 on 1/1 idols and 3/4 penetration from 4/6 on 2/2 idols. 2/1 idols. 2/1 idols. Okay, so got nerfed. Preserving Weedle Idol grants 5 to 10. The Ward Idol affix got nerfed as well. The Weaver Idol that grants health and health regen got nerfed as well. Well, they buffed the flat health on it and nerfed the regen. The health regen nerf, the health regen Weaver Idol got nerfed. The healing effectiveness Weaver Idol also got nerfed. The health and mana Weaver Idol also got nerfed. Kinda weird they decided to nerf that one. Weaver of the Loom Weaver Idol affix. The Stout Weaver Idol affix also, Ward affix also got nerfed. The Swaddling Weaver Idol affix grants 4 to 5 vitality and 2 to 4 health regen. So they nerfed the health regen on the vitality Weaver Idol nodes. The Spinal Idol affix grants 20%, 8 to 20% chance on hit to summon a Thor totem up to 3 times per 5 seconds. Oh, so they buffed the chance and nerfed the limit. Sorry. It didn't used to have a limit, and now it has a limit of 3 to 5 seconds. The resulting idle affix grants 10 to 28% chance for an avalanche boulder to drop at nearby enemy on melee attack, up to 3 times per second, from 5 to 14% with no limit. The reverberating idle affix grants 8 to 22% chance for even an avalanche ball to drop at a nearby enemy or spellcast, up to 3 times per second, from 4 to 11 with no limit. I think this is also actually a buff. Considering, or at least it buffs the consistency of it, because before the chances were so low that you didn't really see that many boulders. Enemy balance changes. Normalize how enemy damage is scaled with level for enemies are scaled to level. Example, enemies in a monolith and enemies in random encounters such as exile mages. This will result in a more consistent ratio of damage between different enemies regardless of level, and should fix some cases where enemies deal excessive damage at one level but are balanced at others. Yeah, I don't know. Aberrate's Frailty now also grants 50% reduced healing effectiveness per stack. That's a lot. We're releasing a total of 30 new uniques for Season 3. 25 Primordial, 5 Standard. Unique item changes, Clotless Needle changed. They nerfed the Strength and Dexterity. They nerfed slightly the Critical Strike Multiplier gained from it. And they nerfed the flat melee damage. And they added flat melee damage, and they nerfed the base damage of the giant rapier subtype as well. So overall, Clotless Needle got nerfed. With pretty decent nerf. With a sizable nerf. Confluence of Fate grants 3 to 9% increased fire damage taken on hit, increased necrotic damage taken on hit, and increased void damage taken on hit. So they reduce the amount of extra damage you take from Confluence of Fate. Strong Warp grants 2% increased spell damage per 1% increased movement speed, so it got slightly nerfed. And the legendary potential on it also got nerfed. Legendary potential chance. Viper Tail got changed a bit. They added a bit more poison chance and removed a bit of slow chance. Astonish Sphere grants 20% increased cold and lightning damage per each water orb you have cast in the past 12 seconds from 30%. It now has an effective level for legendary potential of 30 from 20. So slight nerf legendary potential chance. Slight nerf on the increased cold and lightning damage. And the orbs themselves that it casts got buffed. Talons of Valor now has effective level of legendary potential of 50 from 30. Well, that took a while for that to get nerfed like that. Blood of the Exile got nerfed. Now it can get you from 5 to 8 dexterity int of intelligence instead of 8 to 12. Flames of Midnight grants plus 10 to 11 fire, necrotic and void penetration from 11 to 17, so another one that got nerfed. Ambition of the Erased Acolyte now has a maximum of 3000 ward granted by its effect when a nearby enemy or ally dies. So, technically a nerf. Countenance of Majesta grants 25 to 30% of block effectiveness applied to damage over time, as if it had been blocked. So, slight nerf, and 150 to 300 block effectiveness, from 300 to 600. Yeah. That's a decent nerf. Sizable nerf. World of the Swine grants 5 to 9 vitality from 7 to 13, 7 to 11 all resistances from 7 to 13, and warp per second from each curse, affecting you from 166 max to 133 max. So slight nerf. Brewmaster's Buckle got its vitality value slightly nerfed, still pretty good. Orion's Ascent got the intelligence nerfed, and the legendary potential chance nerfed as well. Makes sense. And even then, this 20 intelligence is so crazy for a belt. As the Sister of Arthropods grants plus 46 melee damage from 50, 16 to 15% increased attack speed from 14 to 22, and Kismet's stacks now are only consumed when you directly use a throwing attack, from also applying to direct use. Transcriber's Grave grants 12% to 20% elemental penetration from 16 to 24, 80 to 120% chance to cast Fire Aura each second while standing on your loot minion, from 40 to 80%, and 6 to 10 spell fire damage with Flame Rush per stack of Fire Aura, from 4 to 8. So they nerfed the elemental penetration and buffed the skill specific on it. All because all the Judgment Paladins were running it. Slow Strife grants 20-30% of health regen, also applies to wards from 20 to 40. Yeah, this was an expected nerf. Especially with the new ring that allows you to use the set. That counts as every set piece, so you can effectively run Shattered Lands along with Vessel of Strife. That would be crazy if that was still how it was before. Black Blade of Chaos grants 6 to 60% chance to inflict Time Rot, though reduced to half. World Splitter grants plus 2 to 0.2.3 critical strike chance for melee attacks per 1 mana cost, from 0.3 to 0.5 per 1, so nerfed. Pretty big nerf. The crit chance. Slab now limits block chance to a maximum of 75%. It's actually a nice change. Now the slab might actually see some use. Because the 75% chance of taking no damage sounds pretty good. Instead of what? At the most 50% chance of taking no damage? Acid of Mortality chance on it, gain mortality, so gain ward per ignite and damned on you. The target is now limited to up to 2000 ward, no limit. I mean, 2000 ward is still quite crazy. Bloodkeeper's Nest grants bees plus 12 to 16 health per attunement, from 12 to 12, and 6 to 8% physical penetration with bleed per strength. So bee buffs. Rename Lightning Infusion from Boardman's Plank to Storming Fusion. Increase the amount of favor you gain from joining a Circle of Fortune faction by 500. It should be enough to immediately buy your first prophecy. Oh yeah, that's exactly what Circle of Fortune needed. Not a revamp of the prophecy system. No, now you can get a prophecy right away. Okay. Merchant Guild. Black market tokens and merchant tokens have been added as droppable items. Yeah, this was explained on the video. You can be used to remove favor cost. Black market tokens can be used to buy items that require a higher reputation rank than you have. And reduce their rank requirement to 1. I mean, if they're adding this into they really should have added something for Circle of Fortune. Because then now you can bypass one of the most annoying things of Merchant's Guild. Only one token can be used per purchase. They can be dropped only for players currently a member of the Merchant's Guild faction. They are a fairly rare drop. One merchant token will drop for each new reputation rank. One black market token from reaching reputation rank 6. Recurrent stock of these tokens can be seen in either the Merchant's Guild faction or Bazaar UI. Bazaar UI has been overall in order to make filtering and finding items you're looking for more efficient. Yeah, we really don't know. I don't intend on playing merchants anyway, so maybe I'll do a merchant's character eventually. Endgame faction, the Woven. Adjust chance for Weaver touch when upgrading enchanting idols. There's a chance for Weaver's idols to have 2 Weaver affixes. Adjusted. Okay, I wonder what this means. Is it a buff or a nerf? New rank bonuses and idol crafting. You can reforge class-specific idols at the Woven Enchanter. Reforging a class-specific idol will remove any Weaver's touch and enchanted affixes, then reroll the standard affixes affixed that drop the new. Nice. Enchanting a class-specific idol is more likely to result in a higher Weaver's touch. Okay. You can reforge Weaver idols at the Woven Enchanter. Reforging a Weaver idol will reroll its fake affixes. At least one affix will always be a Weaver affix. Forging Weaver idols is 10% more likely to result in 2 Weaver affixes. Oh, these are rank rewards. So, reforge class-specific idols at the Woven Enchanter is rank 3. Rank 4, enchanting class-specific idols is more likely to result in higher Weaver touch, rank 4. Rank 5, you can reforge Weaver idols at the Woven Enchanter. Rank 7, reforging Weaver idols is 10% more likely to result in 2 Weaver affixes. And rank 9, 10% more memory amber drops in near Echo. And added 4 new nodes to Weaver Tree. Age of Beasts, increase Rift Beast spawn rate. Riven Gateway. Rift Beasts from Rifts are accompanied by other ancient era enemies. Crystal Growth, increased chance for Rift Beasts to have crystallized hearts. Primordial Ambush, adds a chance to be ambushed randomly by evolved Rift Beasts. Yeah, loot filter changes, we know. We get map icons, we get beams. We got a whole bunch of new stuff. That's something we're gonna have to mess with later on. A bunch of sounds, you get mini-map markers. Take this one unique in your loot filter that has modifiers with roll range. The secondary input will appear that allows specifying min and max values for modifiers on selected uniques. Okay. Rule that includes recoloring an item. Now display the color change in the rule listing by coloring the word show at the start of the next text of that rule. Didn't it used to do that before? Maybe it said recolor. Oh, so now instead of showing recolor, just this says show with a color. Gotcha. Forge UI has been adjusted to make crafting costs and results more clear. Yeah, we're not gonna care too much about the loot filter changes. Forging potential and how much forging potential is going to lose are now shown. Oh, so it shows here. Right. Ah, okay. Shows there. Maybe one. It just showed here, down here. Guess it is a bit more clear. The affix tier. The other autograph will show the following information: the added affix tier and current value of it on the item, critical successes and what has upgraded, results from runes and an explanation of what it did. Yeah, stash macros. I really hope they added this into the game guide. I really hope. No, they actually added this kind of rules. Nice. Now you can actually search for number of years. Number of T6. Nice. Staffakas will be happy with this. Has it class requirement macros? 30 macros. Found minimaps are automatically included. And you will purchase a duplicate version of Stash tab to the configuration window. Ooh, that's nice. Player minion and enemy health bars settings will now have a corresponding color picker with color vision efficiency where presets or choose from. Add a damage indicator to the edge of the screen when the damage is in Y open. Example, when interacting with Nemesis. Nice. Pressing X now also refreshes loot labels on the ground. Updated the relic of the observer crafting station in Northern's Watch. It will now reset the affix selection buttons after an item is placed or the craft completes to address edge cases where the visual selected affix was not the affix that was replaced. Ah, such a nice change. Added a new option in the game, settings to turn off gold labels below a specified amount of gold. Nice. Increase the character limit in the stash search box and the vertical stash search box from 30 to 255. Jesus. That's a big upgrade. Allows for you to do very specific, complex and specific macros as well. A notification when you leave an item in the forging crafting panel. The notification that item ground tooltips are hidden, also pretty nice. A lot of people have come around not knowing why they couldn't see their items, so that is a nice change for them. The enter button on the dungeon entrance panel now no longer allows you to click it when there's no key in the key slot. Okay. Add quick navigation buttons to faction rank panels when a member of at least 2 factions. Nice. As UI elements now render correctly on 16 to 10 aspect ratio displays. When the faction menu is open, it now closes any other menu open on the left, right, or the center of the screen. Okay. Add UI scaling for the woven echo crafting system and the weaver tree. Updated ancient era chapter banner and map tab graphics. I'll enchant the stash button to set an expression. We add notifications to tell you why you cannot equip an item when you attempt to and fail. Updated the organization of runes in the forge based on their uses. Opening a report menu on keyboards, allow autofocus description. Controller changes. Player movement is now disabled if any panel is open while using a controller, and you can add a control navigation for the chat window. It's accessible for the menu wheel. On the vendor UI, when you sell an item with the controller, your cursor will move to the next available item instead of defaulting to the now empty slot where the item you sold had been. You can now click to use left button or right button on the controller to swap between faction panels. Both the passive tree and skill tree menus can now be navigated with the directional pad. Yeah, 7 new enemy champions have been added, so no possessed nerfs. Sadness. Performance, optimized memory allocation. New graphics setting to control the amount of light emitted by visual effects. Lowering can improve performance of slower configurations, improve performance in chaotic battles. Yeah, it probably also helps seeing stuff. Fix the common source of hitches during gameplay. Enable texture streaming all across the game assets for reduced memory usage and improved loading times. The texture quality settings set by the master quality option have been adjusted to account for this change. Since the game uses at least 25% less VRAM with full texture resolution enabled, we are lowered the VRAM requirements. Okay. Introduce a system that limits numbers and types of visual effect lights based on quality settings to improve performance. Okay. It's the light and shadows in the Haven of Silk to improve performance. Adjust the vegetation settings in Champion's Gate to improve performance. Optimize visual effects performance on the following enemies: Titan Leech, Blood Gorgon, Blood Chimera, Blood Serpent, and Elder Gaspar. Following menus have added some changes to how they load to optimize their performance. Passive menu, skill tree, open faction, weaver faction, stash, stash menu, cosmetics, and settings. Reduce frame rate reaches when spawning gear and NPCs. Improve game quality for connections with high packet loss. Add localization for unique invocation skills. Change the WSD controls for warpaths, so if no movement buttons are pressed, the warpath is stationary. Instead of text reading chance to bleed, have been updated to chance inflict bleed for clarity. Movement ability should now be more reliable when used around non-standard terrain. Update the game credits. Game guide, add 2 new pages, Rift Beasts, and Primordial items. What about adding the goddamn stash macros into the game guide? This is... What's the point of having the macros when you have to go all the way around to finding how to use the macros? When you have to leave the game to actually use them. Visual and sound updates. Focus gets updates. Ring of Shields get updates. Acid Flask gets updates. Death Seal, Earthquake, Bone Curse. Umbral Blades, Harvest, Shuriken. Get either sounds or visual updates. Tempest more unique. Frozen Ire unique. And now enemies. Enemies have a new visual effect in Frozen. Most Frozen enemies now visually shatter on death. They do not shatter if they're erased with Erasing Strike or similar effect that leaves no corpse killed with fire or poison damage, or if they're a boss or another particularly large enemy. Reduce screen shake on slaughtered troll explosions. Tone down the champion visual indicators surrounding the model. Update Admiral Hearten and Hearten Husk weapon visuals. Update send visuals for abilities used by multiple enemies for improved visibility. That is very nice. Hopefully now you can actually see stuff. Update visuals of Cave of Spiders. Reduce Cave of Spiders entrance animation length. Cave of Spiders. Oh. Add outlines soul generators in the Altar of Flesh. They could have just done away with these. I don't get why we have this whole thing with the soul generators. It's just annoying. Peter Ring updated the visual effect of their breath attack. Fate Weaver Kezis updated the shocking fate attack with indicator visual. Added visual effects surrounding exile mages. Added voice acting for the following NPCs: the Oracle, Rouge Zabat, the Outcast Seer, the Last Imperial, and Architect Leah. Okay. Following Monolithic Echoes, I've added visual updates: Forsaken Hamlet, Serpentine Desert, Burning Harbor, Ancient Cavern, Lost Catacombs, and Defiled Valley. The Monolithic Stone has improved visuals. Brightness of the light on the Stoleness Monolithic Island has been reduced. New music for the Temporal Sanctum dungeon. Music will now transition from Ruined Era to Divine Era when the player switches eras. Ooh, that's actually quite nice. Added a musical stinger for when the player gets his item from the Eternity Cache. Add visual sound updates. Rebuilt the audio mix to improve combat clarity and feedback. The new mix allows for further range of combat weight and sound prioritization. Add new visual effects when entering a time rift. Update the model and icon for the Pyre of Affliction unique. Update the model and icon for the Bulwark of the Last Abyss unique. New visual for controller long press prompt. New updated visual for unstable rifts. Improve the visual that plays for Woven Echoes reward crafts. Improve the horror visual indicator on portals when the transition is loading. Reduce the frequency of the chronoworm's wailing sounds. Oh. Well, we have all of the supporter packs and all the MTX improvements. We need to be re-equipped to change on the cosmetic systems. Cosmetics will now be used on offline and true offline modes. Players must first access the appearance panel in either offline or online mode in order to access it in true offline mode. So I guess you access it, it creates a file on your PC that allows you to use whatever visual effects it is. Which I'm guessing people can then use, edit to actually see how an MTX looks in game and decide if you want to buy it or not. Pretty sure that's gonna happen. Same cosmetic pet can now be equipped in both pet slots. You couldn't before? Under the impression you could. Add a new cosmetic equip slot for customizing your portal visuals and in a complete Echo. Both default and Echo completed portal slots can be independently set or cleared. Okay. Same cosmetic portal can be assigned to both portal slots. The default portal slots use the blue portal if not using a cosmetic portal. Echo completed portal is a green portal if not using a cosmetic portal. Fine. And a new version of cosmetic item, Gauntlet of Fury God Judgment. Version 2 is not as bright as version 1. New Epoch point or items? That's a lot of them. Bug fixes. Anything important? Void Cleave. Fix Void Cleave with active gravity edge node. Suppose its serviceable ability when buffered. Fix the bug where healing visuals for Ring of Shields were not in the correct place. Fix Iron Form node that was not granting invulnerability or preventing. Okay, we're not gonna go through this. I'll go through this on some other time if there's anything really important. We'll get to it. It's just bug fixes overall, right? Yeah. All bug fixes, and I don't want to read all of this. Yeah. Guess we finally got through the whole of the patch notes. Now let's go and see what we actually need to see. Okay, so this is not get changed. What was it that got changed? Oh, so this no longer requires Crimson Gluttony. That's a nice change. This was changed to give you poison chance. Yeah, I'm pretty sure before this was not on... did not apply to your minions. Oh no, it was a 10% chance for certain amount of ward, and now you can get ward. Kind of guaranteed. You're gonna have some really hard choices to do. Because we need that. It's also pretty nice. But this... I might end up doing this. 5-5. 50% chance of gaining ward on enemy in that. Maybe. Or we just keep it at 20%. But yeah, we're not gonna get the damage node there.